let's roll right into it. What is the process of enlightenment, Jean Trebek, since you are such a wise individual? How's that for being put on the spot?
Yeah, well, I don't know how wise I'm. I always show up, but I try my best, and it's you have certainly, Ike, been someone that has expanded my awareness and wisdom and the term enlightenment. But I think what I'd like to just share right off the bat is that enlightenment is pure truth, and it is happening right here, right now. It is what is happening in this very moment. And we don't get too much, we have our opinions about what should be happening or what should have happened or what could be happening, but it is actually the awareness of what is happening right now.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up, right? Like, I think there's a lot of ideas about what enlightenment is when one is, right, moving toward it or attempting to get to it. And then there is, right, the direct experience of, is that all there is?
Yeah, exactly. And I think people, a lot of people, myself included, I remember thinking enlightenment was this carrot that was always dangling in front of me. And I think a lot of good meaning and well-intentioned philosophies and religions put it there more as it's a state that you will get to if you're either good enough, if you're more if you try harder, if you learn something more. And that just keeps the mind still separate from what is going on in your life right now. The truth of reality as it's presenting itself right now.
Right. Because as long as we think, right, enlightenment is someday, right, and it's a place to get to,
right,
then no one ever stops and realizes, I would say, right, the cosmic joke is you could not be there right now in this moment. Just nobody's ever in this moment.
Right.
Right.
And I think the mind likes to collect data and more data to fulfill this insatiable need to keep its momentum alive. And that's why a lot of great masters say it's the stillness and it's the isness of life coming into that. And sometimes we don't like it. It's not about liking it, agreeing with it. It's just what is presenting.
Yes. Yeah. And it's awful hard to, sell products if enlightenment is really easy, right? I mean, we have all these people, these village people in Enlightenment Village saying, you're already enlightened, so come on in and, be part of the group, right? A big part of our business is trying to support people in recognizing that they're already enlightened. Right? It's the paradox folds in and on itself over and over again. Everyone is already enlightened and everyone needs to slow down. And if they did, they would probably drop out of Enlightenment Village. And that's right. That's not the typical thing that a business person would say, right? They would just be like, oh, right, I'm already that thing. So now I'm going to go, right, like go fishing. Now I'm going to go and find the love of my life. Now I'm going to go and do this because I'm no longer spending all this energy searching for that dangling carrot that has always, let's say, right, been inside me instead of me believing it was floating out in front of me all this time.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's very clever, actually. It's a clever setup.
It certainly is.
And I teach a class in the evening at a religious science of mind, religious science church. And I said to my little pod group, you are already enlightened, or, you are already all the allness of God and the allness of spirit. There's no more books. And I could actually feel the resistance. Like it was, oh, thanks, Jean. And then, so what's our homework?
So what's for next week?
So for what's for next week? And, but I also think that's an interesting word, what's next. I also think my beingness is, the beingness is ready to accept what comes next, in a way. You're here now and you're open to the next unfoldment.
Right. I would say, right, it's a difference between chasing the next moment and
Yes.
walking into the next moment and the next moment and the next moment.
Yeah, I love, right. There's a difference. There's a difference between chasing the next. I like that you say that. That's great. That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes me think of I Heart the Huckabees. Did you ever see that movie?
No.
Oh my God, you'd love that movie. It's Dustin Hoffman and it's Lily Tomlin and Jason Schwartzman is in it. And there's this whole premise where, I don't remember exactly how it is. It was years ago and I probably had a couple of beers before then. But the whole premise is that Dustin Hoffman and his crew, they're up ahead writing the guy's life and the sets aren't set up for his life. So they're trying to slow him down so that they can keep setting up the sets up ahead in his life. Reality isn't what we think it is. There's a whole crew building Jason Schwartzman's life up ahead of him. He needs to slow down in his life because they don't have the next set built for the next moment in his life. And, it just, the whole film just collapses the concept of what is real, of course, right? What is reality?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? We all think we know what reality is. And, one could say it's holding on to the belief that I intellectually understand reality is what causes me to miss out on actual reality.
Yeah, that's brilliant, because that's very true too. In Conversations with God, Neil Donald Walsh has this conversation with his higher self, and God says to Neil, "You will never find me through your mind." And so that's a very powerful statement, because especially for a lot of Westerners, we're always taught that the learning, book smart, it has its place and it's wonderful and it's absolutely necessary, but to surrender into the unknown with a faithful heart, it's different than trying to calculate and control your life.
Yeah, well, you just said it there, right? Surrendering into the unknown, which is sort of right, knowledge versus experience, or knowledge versus wisdom, right? Knowledge, we can read 1 billion books, right? I moved from Boulder, excuse me, a couple of years ago. We have the only Buddhist university in the United States of America back there in Boulder, right? You can go get a degree, but you're right, you can go somewhere in the world and get a degree in enlightenment. You can memorize the book, A Course in Miracles, up and down, and you can spend your whole life having an intellectual understanding about that direct experience. Or, as I say, right, you can actually, right, put the book down, put the course down, put whatever down, and come on in, the water's warm.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and to experience life in that way.
Right. Yeah. I don't go on a trip. When I go on a trip, right, let's go back in time before Google told us where to go. Right. We look at maps, right, and we look at road signs, right, and I say, oh, that road sign told me to go right, and that's what got me into Ohio, and then that road sign told me to go left, and that's what got me down to Texas or whatever. But I don't show up at my next place and hang out with people and say, let me tell you all about the road signs. And then there was a road sign that told me to go left. And then there was a road sign that told me to go this speed and that. We don't talk about the road signs, but we talk about books, right? This book said this, and this book said that, and this course and this guru said this and this.
Yeah.
We don't talk about the road signs. That's not what we talk about when we get to our destination.
Right.
At least that's my experience.
No, it's mine too. It's
I think it's
very similar.
Right. It's great to say, Neil Donald Walsh said this, and A Course in Miracles says this, and that's all great, and they're great guides. But just for example, A Course in Miracles, near the end it says, forget this world, forget this course. I mean, forget this book. I think forget this world, forget this book, and come unto with open arms or whatever. It doesn't even really matter what the words are. It's the experience behind it. You've got to let go of this world. You've got to let go of this book. You've got to let go of that Neil Donald Walsh tape. You've got to let go of that, fill in the blank. You must let go of it all and surrender into the awareness of what is, as I would say. Right.
Yeah. And I think the pointers, as a lot of teachers call them, pointers, books, are very useful.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes there's such a smorgasbord out there of spiritual books and paths, and a lot of people take a little from this and a little from that and a little from this. And I think it's really important to find if you're using something to guide you, a signpost, to really give it your all, to give something, a teaching. But enlightenment itself is not a teaching. It's not. It's a direct experience
of letting go of teaching.
Of letting go of, yeah.
Right. What did Ram Dass used to say? Just because I take a bus to Chicago doesn't mean when I get to Chicago I drag the bus around with me everywhere I go.
Right. Yes. Right. Yeah.
So you're saying as if find something that works. So what worked for you?
Mm-hmm. I would say A Course in Miracles was a powerful tool for me. I started reading it when about 10 years ago, or very diligently in the morning. I was doing the workbook, and I could notice a shift where the book was calling me. I was losing a personal identity to this being, this personality. Jean is now going to read a book. It was where it was something out of myself that was calling me to read the book. And I became very, very interested and very, I understood the course in my own way. And I think I felt blessed that I didn't go to a lot of teachers at that time. There weren't so many Course in Miracles teachers. So I really relied on my inner myself, my higher self. And
right. Well, the paradox is it's a self-study book, right? And yet we all create groups and communities. And right, the never-ending paradox.
Right. And what happens when we do that is we compare our experience to someone else. So if your experience looks a certain way, it's very natural for humans to go, oh, well, he's far along and he knows better, or she articulates that so well. And, and then we're giving our power away, so to speak, and we're not listening to our own inner guru or God self.
Right. And yet it's so hard because in the experience of being a human, we're a pack animal.
Right. Yes. We're mammals. We love, pack animals, mammals.
You're in a pod at the religious science church, right? You're in a pack, right? You're a pack animal in a pack. And yet the journey to enlightenment is a self-study program, no matter what, right? No matter what you're using, it's a self-study program. you don't drag everybody else along. If you do it, most people are by themselves, right? When they're crossing that pseudo finish line.
That is for sure. That is for sure. It is also, it brings up for me, there was a time that I felt very lonely. And the mind it's always like, this is wrong. This shouldn't feel this way. And it
should be blissful, right?
It should be, right. Exactly. I think a lot of teachings teach if it's not joyful, then you're thinking a wrong thought. I mean, you're going to have thoughts before enlightenment and after enlightenment. It doesn't mean that you're not thinking, that you're not going to have crazy thoughts, fearful thoughts. You're just the awareness of it and the choice to remember, oh, these are just thoughts. They're not my true reality. This is my body, my communication tool, but it's not what I am. And as we spoke, like the ping pong of that, as waking up, as you're being released from the identity of a person, it can be lonely, it can be painful, it can be very disorientating, discomforting. And a lot of people don't want to, it's like, okay, that's enough.
Right, turn back, right?
That's enough. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it sort of funny that so many people live with a sense of loneliness, sadness, depression long before they pursue enlightenment, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting case to make, right? Like, yes, we both know, right, as we occur separately, we both know that there are times of not relating to the rest of humanity, not relating to anything on Earth as it appears to be. And yet there are plenty of people that aren't pursuing enlightenment, and they're more miserable, perhaps, or equally miserable and lonely and depressed, and things don't make sense as that, right? That nearing the end, right? It's just like any good journey. I remember Ken Gordon, who's the spiritual director of Centers for Spiritual Living, saying to me, have you ever noticed how when you're for something, everything against it shows up, right? So there's people that are not even pursuing enlightenment, and they are miserable. So I always say, well, if you're going to be miserable or depressed or lonely, why not take on the pursuit of enlightenment? At least there's the possibility of remembering that you are the one.
Yes.
Right. Like if you're going to suffer, if you're already suffering, why not take on the pursuit of enlightenment?
Well, that's true. I have not met anyone that has not experienced a point of suffering in their awakening.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have, but it seems to be part of the enchilada of going through a period of undoing, and with that it just seems to be the human way, I guess, that there's suffering with that. I don't think it has to be, but.
Well, I always say that. I don't think it has to be, but I've yet to run into someone who I could actually be with and feel like the nothingness of blissful nothingness that didn't then move their mouth and say, yeah, I had points where my butt was handed.
Right.
It seems like it's possible. I just haven't run into anybody.
Yes, me too.
It's through adversity, right, that our greatest, an Olympian doesn't sit around and eat Doritos and drink soda and win a gold medal.
Right.
I don't think it matters whether it's enlightenment or like winning a basketball game. There's work.
A goal that you're, Yeah,
there's work in growth.
Work. Yes, actually, that's feels better than a goal, because that puts enlightenment again as a goal. So I like what you're saying.
Yeah, enlightenment's kind of funny, right? Because it's the right. We use all those words like becoming unattached and surrendering, right? They're
Mhm.
all words that sound scary, but they're also words that are great pointers to all that knowledge you have, and you can recite A Course in Miracles, and you can recite the Bhagavad Gita, and you can recite the Gospel of Thomas, or fill in the blank, and all those things that you're holding on to that you can recite are the very things that you must let go of in
Yeah.
order to remember the truth of what is. Enlightenment it's a gentle shift. It's a razor blade's edge from believing you're a person and you're so smart and you've got these degrees and you've taken these things to realizing you're God or awareness. And sure,
And
they might
you're
help you in the
nobody.
form world, but you don't want to identify. You don't want to. My primary identity is awareness or God or the universe or whatever. And my second, the actor I play, is like Alan. I like to know. It's not intellectual, right? This is not an intellectual experience for you and I, right? As much as
Mhm.
we occur separate, right? There's no separation. It's not intellectual for us. We are the awareness of what is, playing each of our what occurs as individual roles, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And at times there's a point where I generate a personality because I know that's what is. I'm in a situation.
Yes, I'm at the grocery store.
I'm at and I actually have, so I have to fulfill why I'm there. And so I will, right, just not stand and watch around. But I actually love doing that, stand in the grocery store, raise my perception up a little bit, and just oversee the play of the people at the grocery store.
Yes, everyone's playing the role, whether they know it or not, right?
Right.
Like I always love Byron Katie's quote, right? Um, I love everyone, something to the effect of, I love everyone and everyone loves me, dot, dot, dot. Some of them just don't know it yet,
Right. Right.
right? Like
Yeah.
everyone's, whether you know it or not, right? You're all playing your roles. We're all playing our roles seamlessly. And right, the observer effect or witnessing, right? The intention of that word witness, I would say, as it occurs from awareness's perspective, was to watch. I am watching everything unfold perfectly. Even if it looks horrific, I'm watching it unfold perfectly. And when my character, right, all the world's a stage and all the men and women
Mhm.
merely players, right, they have their entrances and exits. When it's time for me to step in and say, I'm Gene Trebek and I need 3 pounds of bananas,
Mhm.
right? You say your lines.
Exactly. Yes. And you're aware that that's happening.
Yes.
So
You're
that's,
witnessing Gene Trebek saying, I
I'm
need 3 pounds of bananas.
right. And I act, yes. So and what you and I spoke of before, Ike, I think another misconception of the term enlightenment is that your seeming problems go away, or you never get sick, and you're gonna, that's such a trap. I mean, I think you become you have a state of wisdom about you, so you can move through certain situations that are challenging with a little more grace and ease and maybe a little more intelligence. But it doesn't mean you're now you will never get a cold, and now you will never worry about well, it's not so much worry, but your children, everything is protected now. It just,
Right. And you look at some of the great gurus that people love to look to, the Wayne Dyers, the Kenneth Wapnicks, even Bill Hicks, the comedian, who would go on and on about the nature of reality, right? They all died from cancer. They didn't escape something, right?
right, right.
So we are here in this moment to enjoy. I'm here to enjoy my daughters and my puppy and
Mhm.
Andy and you and everyone else I get to interact with. And whatever's going to happen, right? If something happens, like I get to choose how I want to interact with that happening, and maybe I can overcome it, and maybe it the alien spaceship is what takes me away and takes me down. I don't know, you know. So then, right, so what's the point? Like, why pursue, or why actually dissolve the illusion that one is not enlightened? Like, what are the benefits, or what's the point in your experience at this point in the journey that even as awareness, right, keeps going? Like, what's the point?
Yeah. Right. What is the point? I mean, it's that's that's the $1 million.
Didn't see that one coming, right?
Yeah. I think the suffering really diminishes a lot. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. And that because you're in the state of awareness, or you can quickly remember the play of life doesn't have this grip on your heart and mind and stomach area. You're more, it's like letting a child know, hey, you had a bad dream. So the child isn't, wakes up, go, oh, right, thanks, Mom. It was a bad dream. I got it. Okay. I mean, her heart's still she still might feel a little, keep the light on or whatever, but it's not this, oh my God, wake me up. So for me, that's my first idea of why pursuing enlightenment, or actually, I think it's the other way around, but
yes,
enlightenment pursues you, or the infinite power of creation kind of just dissolves or removes a lot of identity and personality from you. But we need that too. I definitely feel we need a level of that to operate in the world. And I love the word integration also.
Mm-hmm.
I use that a lot. I think integration helps with marrying the the human self with the divine, with the God self, and yet the God self having full power and full awareness.
Yeah, I liken it to, right, like the bus driver. You think you're the bus driver, and enlightenment is when you realize you the personality, Ike Allen, is not the bus driver, it turns out. God is up there driving the bus, and the character, the persona, now just sits in the back of the bus. It doesn't fight, it doesn't complain, it doesn't yell at the tour guide. It just sits comfortably in the back of the bus and lets God, the universe, enlightenment, awareness drive it around. Right. Like, and that's where I think the stress gets, right. People go on tours, remove the stress from their lives, right? Like, hey, tour bus company, you tell me where I'm going, you manage the time, you tell me where my breakfast is, I sit in the back, you tell me to look right, you tell me to look left. We can get on the tour bus and complain about it continuously. We should have had more time here, we should have had more time there. But life is still, when you look at the bigger picture, in my experience, life is easier when I let the bus driver drive the bus, and me, the persona, Ike Allen, sits in the back, and me, Ike Allen, the awareness of what is, drives it. It's just easier that way,
Yes. Yeah. And how did you, for you, Ike, how did you come into the knowingness that there was no more Ike Allen so much driving the bus anymore? Did you know, or was that gradual, or did that happen like all of a sudden for you?
Well, speaking of another person that, left before they would have wanted to, right? I always think of Steve Jobs, saying, right, have you ever noticed how most overnight successes took a very long time to get there, right? Enlightenment is a split-second shift, in my experience. And the journey to that split-second shift was divorce, bankruptcy, legal problems, hardly seeing my kids for a while, everything that could have gone wrong. And that's where we're in agreement, right? Enlightenment is not a journey from here up to there. Enlightenment is a journey from there back. And I feel like, you know, me as awareness, I came in and I just shredded the character, Isaac Allen, you know. I just shredded it. Everything in the formal that could go wrong, and I stripped him down, and I stripped him down, and I stripped him down. And then there was a moment where he just gave up. And in the moment he gave up, awareness, right? This is where it gets tricky, like you talk about. You know, I use it from a symbiotic relationship. Enlightenment took back over as the primary identity, and then Isaac Allen resurrected, right? And, you know, I would say like Enlightenment returned into this thing, and then Isaac Allen was gone, and 15, 20 minutes later, as I always remembered occurring to me, Isaac Allen resurfaced, but he lives behind the awareness of what is. So I'm in the same boat, but I'm a sci-fi guy. So I always think of Star Trek and these things, trills, that it was an honor for the humans to have, and then was another alien thing. But it's a symbiotic relationship between, which isn't a big stretch from Christianity, right? There's God, or Judaism, right? There's God, and there's the persona, you know, and the human, right. And you're in a relationship, you know, except in non-dualism, it's the knowledge, the direct awareness that, you know, you are both. You are the one, right? I mean, you are the one. It's not like there's always God is up there and I'm down here. It's non-dualism, things like A Course in Miracles and most Buddhism and stuff like that. It's all about, right, you're the one, you know. So everything was stripped away, and now I live, right? We used to put people in loony bins or whatever for this, right? I live as
so true.
Right. It's split personality disorder. I'm God, and I'm Ike Allen or Isaac Allen, right? But that's, for me, that's the truth of what is, right? And you're God, and you're Gene Trebek. And again, we're not talking intellectually. We're talking like that is our awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we are the awareness, i.e., God, or whatever anyone wants to call it. And we're playing our role, as Shakespeare said. All the world's a stage, all the men and women merely players, you know. And it's everywhere. If one really is looking for it and ready for it, it's everywhere. Andy and I are watching the Battlestar Galactica remake that came out in early 2000. You know, the Cylons now look like humans. If anyone remembers from their childhood, they were gold and they had that thing. So we're watching it, and we're only into like the 7th episode, and one of the Cylons is telling Starbuck, one of the main characters from the old show and the new one, that this has happened many times before, and right, the writers are borrowing from Shakespeare, and it's just going to happen over and over again. It's this. They're just saying it repeats. The storyline repeats over and over. It's just playing out, and everybody plays every role. And hey, Starbuck, you really can't avoid your role because this is your role this time around. And the Cylon's saying, in the next life, right? They're talking in a reincarnation world. In the next life, maybe I'll be the hero and you'll be the villain. You know, which is, it gets into a little bit, right? We're entering into a different world of tangled hierarchy and multiple lives and stuff. But I think within the human experience, I'm a reincarnation guy. I'm all about it. I remember past lives, and I think the game just reboots again and again. And me, awareness, I just watch. It's just a TV show, and I watch it. And yes, there's horrible suffering, and yes, there's amazing joy, and we can do things if we're inspired to change the world. And it's all a TV show. You know, it's all God's
the ultimate reality show. It's
the ultimate reality show that there's no real reality to it. Right? It's all in God's mind, and we're all this, and this is the projection, right? And as A Course in Miracles says, right, you're always safely at home. We're not even gone from the mind of God, you know. We're all already safely at home, witnessing this again and again. And whether you believe in the reincarnation aspect is irrelevant, but we are awareness, and this is what's happening now. So that's how that's the story of Isaac Ike Allen, right? It was lose everything and emerge. And it's, you know, I've interviewed 1 trillion people. I'm on multiple shows all the time now, and I speak at things and I do coaching and stuff. But all I'm really telling people is exactly what I'm saying on this. I mean, I can pinpoint things for them, but it's not a degree. It's a matter of, you know, like Bill from AA, right? The guy that founded AA. I don't know if he's got a degree or anything, but he went through his own direct experience, and look what the guy has built. It's not about getting a degree in enlightenment, and there's nothing wrong with that. But,
right.
We could tell people, we could take someone from, Mars that comes to visit, and we could tell them for 3 months while they're visiting us what it's like to eat peanut butter, right? Or we could just put the peanut butter in front of them and say, Fribble Dip, taste the peanut butter. And in a second, Fribble Dip from Mars understands what you and I have been like, no, Fribble Dip, you must taste the peanut butter, right? Now Fribble is like, oh my God, Gene and Ike, you were so right. This is incredible. There doesn't need to be any words to explain what peanut butter is. He or she just has to taste it.
Right. Yes.
You don't get a degree in tasting peanut butter. You taste it.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with getting the degree, but never confuse the degree in what peanut butter may or may not taste like with tasting peanut butter.
Exactly. And it's such a difference. It's night and it's exactly what you said. And yet that the mind that thinks it can experience it through a book or something else is very powerful, very strong, very conditioned.
Yes. And so, like you said, they're great guideposts, but they don't guarantee the direct experience.
Right. I mean, look how many people say they study all these courses for 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And they're still on that rabbit wheel or hamster wheel.
I'd like to see a rabbit wheel, though. I think that would be fun too.
I think so too. That would be really cute.
I wonder if that's out, right? Wouldn't it be fun to watch a rabbit run around and around on a wheel? Yeah, and I always look to A Course in Miracles, right? It was a 365-day course, right? You basically do it for a year, and yes, you can repeat it. And I am not poking at anyone. I'm just saying, like, what if the intention was, like, if you really took it on within 365 days, you could truly put the book aside, you could truly put the world aside, and then just enjoy the rest of your experience. I always throw that word, right? You could enjoy the rest of your experience of life, and then you do what you want, right?
Right.
So what do you, now that you're not really Gene Trebek and you're the awareness of what is, like, how has that changed your life? What do you do? Has anything, what has not pursuing enlightenment, freed up, or what's chop wood, carrot, right? What's different and what's not different?
I think what's still the same for me is my passion for spirituality, for teaching, because I like that prior. When I was younger, I was very drawn to Jesus. Not so much, I was raised Catholic, but not so much in the religious aspect, but just for some reason, I would hear his name and it would be, but not in a Catholic way. And so I find that is where my passion is. And I think whatever it is that you could talk about a lot, or whatever it is that you look forward to engaging in, will still be there. And you'll have just more time to do that.
Right.
That activity.
And would you say, right, like easier to focus on it?
Definitely. Oh, that's great.
Right, because you're not, well, wait, I still have to, is this getting into it? Is doing these bowls, right? You do what do you call them, singing bowls?
Yeah, the crystal singing bowls, right.
So crystal singing bowls, right? Like you can imagine people doing crystal singing bowls, and there's always a little bit of a nudging distraction, like, but I've got to get to that enlightenment thing, but I've got it, right? Like when that falls away, right, would you say you're more present to the bowls and the scent? Is that true or not true for you?
Very, very true.
Got it.
Very true.
Yeah,
And
that's my experience.
And that's a very important experience, distinction that you just made there. Because let's say you're an architect or any profession, a gardener, you'll actually become better because you're more focused. And
Yes.
you'll get more done because you're more focused. The mind isn't so scattered. The mind is more focused. Although I have definitely experienced being scattered and being very aware that I've been
right. The thing is with awareness is you're even aware when you're scattered all over the place.
Exactly.
But at least you're aware, right? You're not like someone points out, someone says to you, hey, Gene, are you aware that you're all over the place? You're like, right. Hey, Gene,
absolutely.
I know I'm all over the place right now. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Like, and like there's also the laughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, the lightening up
funny.
about it. Right.
Right.
You know, in this and movies are such another great pointer to enlightenment. Shirley MacLaine in this movie called The Last Word. She plays this, this personality that's a control freak and all these things that are that she has to deal with. And she says to her daughter, I am what I am. And I think also when you reach that state of awareness, you're no longer trying to fix I don't know if, those character, as we call them, defaults. They sort of soften and they're not so much there, but
if it's part of your role, right, to like poke at people, right? I'm a New England boy. It's part of my role to poke at people.
Yeah.
I can tell you I could overcome it, but this world came and went long ago. I really can't. So I just do what I do and poke.
Exactly. People have a notion that when enlightenment takes over, you're going to not be funny, or you're not going to be, it's going to be so boring. And it's actually the opposite. You laugh more at life and you don't take things personally, which is someone can say, oh, your hair's turning gray. And you're like, yeah. It's like,
yeah, I always remember Byron, someone said to her, Byron Katie's like, you can kind of go anywhere. Someone says to me, you're fat. And she goes, yeah, I can see that. Right? You're skinny. She's like, yeah, I can see that.
Right.
You're not attached to, right, I'm not fat. And yet, you could lose 50 pounds or, right, you've got gray hair, right? Gray hair. And, people say, you look older now. And I go, oh, why do I look older? Of course I look older. I have gray hair on my beard, right? It's like, yeah, I could see that, right? Yep. Yeah. The edges soften and you see the humor in it all.
Right. And all the beautiful things, the kindness, I feel, gets expanded a little more because you're not feeling so threatened by the outer world as much, or at all, you're more at a sense of unity and integrity within yourself.
Yeah, right. So and integrity is such a good word, right? It's that whole and complete, not I forgot to call grandma on her birthday, right? Like, but integrity being whole and right, integral, being whole. You identify as whole and complete. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think the two are actually very synonymous. Integrity, enlightenment. They have a little bit of the same perfume elements to it. I think enlightenment feels more of an awareness. Integrity is more of a way of being in the world, but the two are very much integrated.
Now, I have to tell you, right, we are both that thing, awareness, but you have definitely brought something new to the equation with the metaphor perfume.
Perfume. I love perfume.
Yes, I would probably never relate something to perfume. So see, there is a perfect example of two aspects that occur as separate
Yeah.
but are the same thing. And in our unique expression, you would create something around the concept of perfume as to where I probably never would. So, right, even post Enlightenment, there is still the experience of, right, and the experience of individuality, right? Because you don't want to find out that everyone is a Vulcan and we all look like Spock and we all walk around and we're boring.
Right.
Right. We can always see different people defining enlightenment that I would say, like, right, when I feel, Adyashanti, Byron Katie, Amber Terrell, Eckhart Tolle, you, other people, Tim Freak, Ken Wapnick, right? That is enlightenment. That's the awareness. It's a mirror bouncing off a mirror of the awareness of what is. And within that, like infinite, bung, 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 it's the same thing, right? Hanging out with the same thing, and you both know you're the same thing, and you try to all act differently so that, two things that are exactly the same can interact with each other. The thing that allows it is unique differences, like that aspect of me over on the other side there just talked about perfume, something I would never do in this aspect over here. And so there's always magic, even post-enlightenment, right? There's still magic.
Yes, there's still magic, there's still beauty, there's still challenges, there's
still the electric bill.
Still the electric bill, right?
You don't say, excuse me, whatever, right? Pacific Power, I'm enlightened. You won't need to send me the power bill anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, Ms. Trebek. Yes, there will be no more power bill because you are enlightened. Yes.
Yeah. And realizing that for all the viewer, whoever sees, or maybe no, it's just you and I will laugh at this.
We'll just delete this afterwards.
Okay, that's yes. It's just to take that backpack off of your self, and and just realize that you're what you are is really amazing and brilliant and awesome. So
yeah, you were talking specifically about me, right?
Yes, I was.
Thank you.
Always.
And all of us. And all of us. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share?
I really love what you're doing, Ike. I think what you're presenting is really powerful and inspirational, and I know and joyful, and I know it's all about the joy for you and for me, but just if it's not joyful, I would question that. Why are you doing something?
Yeah.
You taught me this back in the day. Are you doing something because it's inspirational, obligational, or now I have to say desperational?
Yeah, boy, you just backed yourself right into that corner,
totally
Trebek.
messed that one up. You're gonna have to forgive me. Is it inspiring? Are you doing it out of inspiration, obligation, or desperation?
There it is. Yeah.
So yes, that's something to look at in someone's life, why are you doing this? And it's okay if it's an obligation, then you're just aware of that.
Right. That's the key. And one can then move like categories of desperation, if they can, into obligation, and then, getting over to inspiration, but it is about the awareness. I can't say I was always changing diapers with inspiration, but I was doing it out of obligation because I was inspired to not have the bedroom or my kid in a poopy diaper.
Exactly.
So I think Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think becoming aware, is this an obligation? And if this is an obligation, what else is going on? Is this just because I'm so family conditioned, or what's going on here? And to be with that and really take a look at that, because that liberation is enlightenment too, in a way. Yeah.
Right. There's so many ways to get into the awareness of what is. And one is to try to move every area of your life that you're not living from inspiration, right? I.e. in spirit, feeling like God's breathing into you, to move every area of your form world, if possible, into a category called I'm living an inspired life, right?
Yeah.
There's so many paths, there's so many ways, but at the end of the day, right, as they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And it doesn't matter how many paths there are to enlightenment. Tell me if you agree, right? Like, you gotta eventually, take that leap, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, right? Or you've got to drink the water. You've got to drink the Kool-Aid. Eventually you have to drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Right?
So those are my parting comments to you.
Well, Trebek,
so I wish it could be more exciting or more bells and whistles. I think the clarity of hopefully will bring some clarity to the viewers.
Absolutely. Do you want to put a shout out to telling people to come to your religious science church and watch you teach a class if they're bored stiff?
Okay, well, I belong to a really beautiful church called the North Hollywood Church of Religious Science. And it's, as they say, a philosophy, a faith, a way of life, that knowing that God is within all of us and love is a better way, and actually being conscious of your thought, words, and deeds in the creative process of your life are some of the principles that we teach there. And it's a beautiful place to remember your truth.
It certainly is. And you teach classes there, so they could come on over and take a class if they're in the area, right?
Yeah, we've got lots of workshops, and I actually TA, which is teacher assistant for the upcoming practitioner students that are graduating this year. And but there's always stuff going on there. So it's in North Hollywood, California.
Yes. And you are in Enlightenment Village every now and then, so people could message you in there.
Yes, that is true.
Yes, so if you want to pick Jean's brain more, you can actually message her in Enlightenment Village and chat with her when she's not at the church, or she's not, getting Snickers bars or Milky Ways at the store, or whatever it is these days.
Oh, right. Actually, they're Twix.
Oh my, things have changed.
That's his flavor of the year.
And what's the soda flavor?
It is consistently Diet Pepsi.
Ah, yes. Yes. The loves of our lives and the interesting things they bring to the equation.
Exactly.
There it is. Well, folks, you can find Jean in Enlightenment Village. You can find her at the North Hollywood Church of Religious Science. You can find her on Facebook. You can find her everywhere. You can track her down. Thanks for being with me.
Okay, my pleasure. Thank you for all the good and joy, and for being a great friend.
Absolutely. You're one of my favorite skin suits in the world.
Thank you. You are one of mine. All
Woo!
right. All the best. All the best.
You too, my dear. We'll talk soon. And everyone in the village, have a fabulous time out there.